Hey baddies, welcome back to the Arab and Thriving Show. I'm your girl Rima. I'm tuning in from my mommy's beautiful home in Beirut. I've been here a few times since she moved into this place and I have yet to shoot content in this place. So I told myself that on this trip, I needed to capture some moments in here because it's just literally such a vibe. Chances are you've had your fair share of terrible years and you've had your fair share, hopefully, of amazing years and everything in between. And I think a lot of us go through life just thinking that these years happen to us. We go into 2023 and it's like, I just pray that this is my year, or I just pray that, I'm blessed this year. And while of course we're not in control and there is a plan for us, there is some sense of responsibility. I'll use the word responsibility and not the word control because we're going to talk about control soon. In that these years don't just happen to you. They don't just happen to you. What should have been the most terrible year of my life ended up being one of the most magical years of my life, but it doesn't look like it on paper. So that year I lost my father suddenly. I was actually also at home the night that he passed away. So there's just like a lot of trauma there. March of 2017. We lost my grandmother, so my father's mother, only months after. And then also throughout that year, I was in a toxic relationship. I've been trying to get out of that toxic relationship for over 4 years. And it just was not like the best year on paper. But something I did internally, and not knowingly, like I did not know this consciously, something I did internally actually made that one of the most magical years of my life. 2017 taught me a lesson that I try my best to hold on to every single day, and I do believe it has made the ultimate difference in my happiness, and when I'm not remembering it, in my unhappiness. And that lesson is you don't control anything. Like in the grand scheme of things, we do not control anything. And losing my father at a relatively young age in such a sudden, unexpected, traumatic way was something that just shook me to the core. But it gave me a blessing in disguise, and it kind of absolved me of this constant feeling that I'd always felt to be in control of my life. I am a recovering control freak, and I'm someone who truly was like always on, always achieving, always trying to drive the actions in my life. And having something happen like that made me realize like everything you've been doing doesn't control outcomes. Like you don't actually really run this at the end of the day. I will never forget driving to and from my job, which was 45 minutes from where I was living at the time, and just having these really intense bouts of grief. And something that I don't think a lot of people talk about with grief is it's not all sad. It's not like you're just depressed. I'm not going to speak on anyone else's grief journey. I'll speak on mine. For me, it wasn't all sad, and that was very confusing for me. We also come from a culture, I'm Arab, I'm Muslim, and a lot of our cultural norms around death is to wear black for as long as you can wear black, to just be really sad all the time. And I wasn't really going to force myself to feel anything that I wasn't feeling. If I was depressed and sad, I was going to be that. And if I was happy and laughing, I was going to be that. I was just going to look at any emotion as a gift from God, especially the positive ones, and lean into that. And so I remember SZA's album Control, so ironic, came out during that period, and I just loved her album. I loved her music, I loved her lyrics. They resonated with my life, not even just with the grief journey, but just who I was becoming at the time and how I was feeling. And I would blast SZA's album on my drives to work and be singing and having so much fun. And when you could just literally record whole music videos in your car because no one else has to hear you, you're just being so loud and obnoxious. And then out of nowhere, I would just start crying, cries that I've never cried before. Like cries from like the depth, like the deepest parts of my soul. I would just be crying. And I'm thinking like, anyone watching me on I-94 right now just thinks I'm crazy. I was just laughing and singing, and now I'm just literally like ugly Kim K crying in my car. And then I finished crying and now I'm happy. And it was just constantly this emotional roller coaster, but it was beautiful. Like, I know that sounds weird, but it just felt beautiful. It felt like I was so raw, in some ways powerless, but at the same time so powerful in knowing that there is something bigger than me controlling all of this. And I can kind of relax a little bit knowing that there is a greater plan, even for things that we're sad about and even for things that we maybe wished wouldn't have happened. I actually had so much gratitude enjoy in 2017, despite being broken, despite being heartbroken. I had so much drive to just do something with my life. I'd always been highly motivated. I'd always had, a purpose. I'd always felt this deep connection to a purpose. But that year, I knew that it would save my life and save my mental health if I focused and channeled all of my emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly, into something that meant something. And so that year, literally on my birthday, I started a blog. I started expressing, I started creating, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was using that blog as a channel to connect with people while also healing myself. I started applying to business school. I started studying for my GMAT. I would later get into business school, my dream school, literally the school that I was dying to go to following year. And I just look back at 2017 and I'm like so in awe of that girl, like so in awe of that 24-year-old girl who was just letting herself feel and letting herself understand and letting herself just grapple with things. I ended up getting out of that toxic relationship that year for good. It was just things that I'd never been able to do before. I'd been wanting to do for years. I was able to do in 2017. And I truly believe that it was because of two things. Number one, I released control and I surrendered to God and to the universe. And by doing that, it just made me grateful because I felt so in awe of everything that my life was and everything that it wasn't. I just felt grateful for the way that things were. Instead of looking at things like, it's so sad that I lost my father at such a young age, I remember the line that was sent to me from God. Like I'm poetic and I write, but I didn't write this. Like I can't take credit for this. I am so grateful to have had somebody so worthy of being missed. Like what? Like look at the different perspective. I could have taken that in 10 different directions. I could have been like, I miss him so much, this sucks, which was true, right? There's so many things that are true at the same time, but my brain was fixated not on the fact that I missed him, but how lucky I was to have someone miss-worthy. Like imagine if we looked at every shitty thing that way. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I don't believe in being toxically positive. I was still sad and I still missed him. I would still cry. I would still have dreams about him, wake up feeling like my life is a nightmare. But I just kept coming back to the fact that God gave me somebody who was so worthy of even being talked about on this video right now. And that line truly got me through so much. Really helped me make 2017 a very surprisingly amazing year in my books. Like when I look back and I kind of like look at my life like a set of chapters, I'm like, that was a good one. Like I feel really good about how I did that one. On the other hand, and this is the part that I think is a little interesting, the year that on paper looked the absolute best, I was in my dream top 10 business school, had so many crazy opportunities. And that year we were getting a lot of press and media coverage for Dearborn Girl. We had started this podcast the year before, basically outlining and highlighting and showcasing the narratives of the Arab and Muslim women in Dearborn, which is, if anyone has been following me, that's like my pride and joy in my life. And so on the career level, everything that I wanted was happening. And honestly, things that I didn't even know I wanted were happening. I got this internship with the Miami Dolphins that year. I was able to go literally like to Florida with a group of other classmates and do a consulting project for a team of C-suite executives at the Miami Dolphins. Then I got my dream internship with Gary Vee at VaynerMedia, which then turned into 2 job opportunities in the years later. Like everything was a vibe. It was a vibe. Like things were a vibe, but I was depressed that year. And when I really look back, I'd been trying to figure out, just because I like to study things retrospectively and think like, what happened that year? Everything externally looked great. What was happening internally that made you feel depressed? Like everything you ask God for is coming. I think it's that I felt like I was in control again. Like I truly think it's that I thought that I was driving my actions, and that took away a little bit of gratitude. I won't say that it made me entitled, because I don't think I've ever really felt like an entitled person. But when you think you're in control, and when you don't think there is someone or something or, God or the universe running things on your behalf, if you don't believe that, then you think that things rely on you to run. And I remember every single achievement, from getting into Ross, from getting my internships, both with the Miami Dolphins and with VaynerMedia, from Dearborn Girl stuff. I downplayed every single one of those things. So imagine somebody comes and gives you the most beautiful, amazing gift that you've had on your wish list for years. And you open it and you look at it and you're like, you regifted this from someone else and I actually didn't deserve it. And maybe you don't tell that person something. Like, I was never out here looking crazy telling God, like, why'd you do this? No, but it was like, this person is giving you the gift that you've always wanted and you don't think you deserve it. And how disrespectful is that for you to kind of like put it in this random corner in your room to collect dust when this person gifted that to you? It's yours now. You don't need to question why it's there. They got it for you. Accept the generosity. Be grateful. Understand that it's a blessing. And I just don't think that when I look back on that year, I don't really feel that way. And it's not because I'm an ungrateful person, but it's because something deep inside made me feel, even though it happened and exactly what I wanted to happen happened, there were these voices in my head telling me that, well, yeah, not really though. Like, you thought you wanted this, but at Ross, you got in, but you were on the wait list, which is true. I was on the wait list. I didn't get in right away. Who cares if you were on the wait list? You're in the school. Nobody knows the difference. I mean, I'm not shy about it. I would tell people that, just because they asked why I wasn't at certain events, and I would just be honest. But it's like, in my mind, I constantly felt like, well, you don't really belong there. So I not only had imposter syndrome about school and professionalism, but I just had imposter syndrome about me. Like, I had imposter syndrome about God, when you really think about it. Like, that was my first news appearance in my life. I was on ABC News once by myself, 2 times with Yasmin and Milak for Dearborn Girl. And I looked, like, at the time I was excited about it, but I would constantly just downplay it. One other key thing that made 2019 one of the worst, most depressed years of my life, despite it being one of the best years on paper, was I just lost my drive and I lost my vision. I didn't have as strong of a vision. I just didn't have as strong of a purpose and drive. And so it just begs the question, like, when we think about what is the anatomy of a good year, after listening to everything I just said, you might be like, does someone in my life have to die for me to have a good year? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like, sometimes I wonder that. Sometimes I'm like, how do I recreate the feelings of 2017 without creating or, waiting for the tragedy that are definitely inevitable? Like, bad things are gonna happen, and alhamdulillah, now I know that I have a grateful heart and I will get through it regardless. But I don't want to wait for something tragic to happen, la samahallah, for me to be in that feeling of motivation, in that feeling of drive. How can I recreate those feelings right now, so that I can have this phenomenal year, this phenomenal next few months? If you're not like a year person, that's cool too. Like, this phenomenal quarter, without having a chip on my shoulder, without having to lose a parent, without having to go through something tragic. How can we recreate that? And the way that we recreate that is gratitude. Everything that you put on your vision board this year can and will happen. It can and will happen. That's not the question. The question is, how are you going to feel on the journey? How are you going to feel when it does come? Are you gonna be like me in 2019 and get every single thing you asked for just to feel ungrateful for them? Don't you see and understand that it was never the accomplishment? It was never the life circumstance, and it was always the way you chose to look at it. Don't you see and understand that that girl driving to a job in 2017 that she didn't even like, trying to get out of a toxic relationship that she had been dying to get out of for 4 years, who had lost the only male presence in her life at that point in time that she trusted? Don't you understand that the only reason she not only survived that year but thrived was because of her perspective? And don't you now see that, yes, we don't control everything. We don't control things. Really, there's a greater plan that we are part of. But don't you see that it is your responsibility to uncover that plan and be open and be grateful for the possibilities of it all? I want you to take that into 2023. That's what I'm doing. I don't have a resolution this year. I haven't set resolutions for the past couple of years because it's, for me, about the intention and the energy. I do vision boards. So if you're a vision board girly, go ahead and watch that video up here. I just want you to know that regardless what your circumstances, and I know it's hard and I'm not downplaying it, and I really don't know how hard it is because I'm not you. Nobody knows but you. But don't let that make you make excuses for your mindset. Don't let that trick you into believing you do not have a choice in the way you choose to look at it. Do not lie to yourself. Do not gaslight yourself. Don't feed into toxic positivity, because that doesn't help you and that doesn't feel good. Allow yourself to feel the gratitude and the awe and the joy where those moments exist, because they are the smallest little moments. There's the sun that creeps into your window in the morning. There's the glass of coffee that you drink throughout your day. There's the moment of silence when your kids go to sleep. Like, we all have experienced these tiny, little, beautiful moments of joy. And regardless how good it's going to get, because it's going to get so good, you'll find that those moments, those little simple moments that have been with you from the beginning, are the ones you still savor and hold on to, even on your best, most amazing, most magical days. I just want you to know how much I love you and how much I'm excited for all of us. 2023 is a great year, not because it's anything special from 2022 or 2021, but because of your perspective. 2023 is going to be a phenomenal year, because I know you're going to make it a phenomenal year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next one.